Great. Okay, thank you all so much. I'll see also if request to record to this computer. I'll see if I can also record for us. Okay, I'll go ahead and get us started. I've planned for about 60 minutes, but we can also have a little bit more time depending on how many questions you have. I'm here to answer any questions you have and also after. But yeah, we'll design it for about 60 minutes and then see how we go. So this training is, I'm calling it Measuring Progress on Gender Equality. We will have another one next week that I hope to see all of you on. We're going to focus a little bit today on assessing progress where you stand. So this is a WEPs or Women's Empowerment Principle training. I know that many of you have had this information before. I'll share just a little bit about the WEPs and also a link for how you can join if you aren't familiar and you are interested. So the WEPs were launched in 2010 by UN Women and UN Global Compact as really a signature framework and platform to mobilize private sector action for SDG 5 across all of the development goals and for gender equality. So it's designed for business of any size and sector, and it really covers really corporate leadership, workplace, marketplace, and community. So it takes a value chain approach with these 7 principles, which is really the unique thing about the WEPs. Almost every other framework out there focuses a lot on leadership or workplace, but not into the deeper marketplace. So typically, social enterprises, small businesses, any entity that's registered, even if you're 2 employees, can join the WEPs, all the way up to country offices of multinationals. We also welcome stock exchanges and industry associations. So it's not for nonprofits or government entities, but business associations or stock exchanges can also join. We have about 11,000 signatories across the globe, and I'm sharing my full browser, so I'll just take you very quickly, and I'll put a link in the chat. We do have a global WEPs website that anyone can visit. It's public. If you're interested in joining the WEPs as a private sector organization, you do need to have a CEO statement of support signed by your leader, either the CEO or the person with highest decision-making authority in the company. And then they upload it with a short online application. You submit it in the platform. We get the information in the back end, do a quick review, make sure you're private sector, that you exist. And then if you become published, you're verified, then you go on the website. You can also check at any time who are signatories if you want to see. Also, I believe you can filter. You can't filter by industry. I think you can by sector. If you also want to check those in your sector around the globe. If I look today for Pakistan, we have 166 WEP signatories, which is great. So you can also have a browse there and look at their profile. There's a lot of freely available WEPs resources that you can access. These are everything from research and studies that have been undertaken to case studies from companies implementing the WEPs, also a lot of guidance notes, some policy templates. We also have recordings of webinars that we've held because the WEPs is managed at our UN Women headquarters. So a lot of great resources you can access, but also a lot more that you can unlock if you're a WEP signatory. So if you have any other questions about joining the WEPs, I'm happy to answer. But otherwise, I'll go ahead and pop us into the main objective for this session today. So in leveraging the WEPs, we often talk about the WEPs journey. So it's not just joining and then that's it, right? Or taking an assessment and that's it. And it's also not working on all 7 principles at the same time, right? We know these 7 principles can be overwhelming. And it's really about starting where you are on your journey, figuring out how you can develop actions that fit for your business priorities, your strategic plans any given year, and to continue developing based on that. So we often say the WEPs journey starts with consider, gaining awareness of the WEPs, garnering international support. Some of you have already done this as well. You may sign the WEPs. We also talk in an activate stage, and that's mainly where we'll look today, is taking the WEPs gender gap analysis tool to get a baseline. The good thing is that you don't have to be a WEP signatory to take the tool. So if you're not sure about the WEPs, but you still want to test it out, you can go ahead and take the tool. That's what we'll talk about today. And then engaging, right? Engaging different units within the organization or leadership, looking at suppliers or other vendors, depending on which areas you're working on. So sustaining your actions, communicating progress, sharing learnings, lessons learned, challenges, how you've overcome them, reporting on progress. So measurement and tracking, reporting on progress, and then kind of continuing the cycle. So we often call this the WEPs journey. And I know today may be one of your first steps in that journey. Okay, so assessing progress on women's empowerment, which is really the focus of today. Before we actually start with the content, I want to get a little pulse check from everyone. So if you can scan the QR code, and also on your browser, you can type in menti.com and then you can enter 70811447. I'm going to go ahead and move to that other screen, but I'll send a direct link if you want to join. Actually, let me copy the link first. Just a second. Okay. Okay. No, go back just to make sure everybody's in. Okay. Let me get the direct link. This one. Okay. Great. Let me just share this in the Zoom chat in case anybody else wants to join. You can join on your computer. You don't have to use a phone. Great. I see we have 7 people in. So 3 people have answered this first question. And just to remind you, Menti is anonymous. So I don't know who is asking or answering. There's no way to know, who. I just want to get a sense check. So if we could get a few more answers, we have 9 people in. Yeah, how advanced do you feel your organization currently is with regard to taking action? Okay, so some are more early stages, some saying making decent progress, which is great. Oh, okay, very tied. Interesting. Okay. Okay, great. Great to know that a lot are already on track. The next one, how confident do you feel in your individual capabilities to advance gender equality in your office or organization? And I know maybe not all of you are the main focal point or the main person carrying this forward, but just curious. Okay, 1 person is fairly confident, 2 are fairly confident. Great. 3, wonderful. Okay, yeah, a few are somewhat, okay, but great to know most are like, feeling pretty good about this. Great. Okay, this one's an open-ended one. What do you currently feel are the biggest challenges or barriers to making progress on gender equality? And this could be internal leadership buy-in, lack of awareness or understanding. This could be a bit more external, like it's a difficult sector we work in or culture. Okay, male bias. Yeah, that can be a big one that we see across economies, right? No matter the region we're in. Okay, someone's saying male bias. This could be lack of resources or lack of human resources. I know sometimes people want to do more things, but they just don't have the resources to do it. Any others? Supply constraints, okay. Cultural constraints, lack of sensitization. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Technical skill set, okay. That can play a big role as well. Yeah, to actually know how to help make progress. Okay. Okay, great. I think the question will stay open if others want to add more. But I think two more before we get going. Does your organization currently track gender data? So this is either you can say a no or not sure, or maybe yes for up to 3 metrics. So maybe you're measuring boards, senior leaders, and overall employees, or you're measuring 3 to 7. And this is just internal tracking. Do you track this? Okay. So 2 for up to 3 metrics, and it's okay if you're not sure. You may not be the person that's in charge of that in your organization. Okay. Okay. 1 is for more than 7 metrics. Ah, interesting. Okay. Great. Okay. A few aren't sure. Most for up to 3 or 4. Okay. You can always share later, or if anyone wants to type in the chat. I'm assuming these 3 might be overall employees, women on boards, and women in senior management. But I'd be curious if not. But okay, very interesting. And the last one before we move on, does your organization report on progress to advance gender equality? So again, no or not sure, and you might be yes, but only to internal to the board or to other stakeholders or shareholders, or any that are doing internal and on a public platform. Sorry, that should be internally and on public platforms. Okay, 1 is no. Yep, fine. Ah, okay, great. So quite a few are actually reporting externally as well. Great. Okay, fabulous. Great. I think we're in good hands today. Maybe you'll be teaching me more than I have to offer guidance for you, or maybe some of you will score very high on the GAT. Okay, so I'll take us there already. Also, if you want, please go ahead and share your name and position and organization in the chat if you'd like to. I think you can message everyone in the webinar if you'd like. Okay, so benefits of assessing progress, right? Why should we actually measure and know where we stand? So we know our overall approach to gender equality, the GAT, the tool we'll talk about today, really helps you look at your approach, identify gaps and opportunities across all those value chain areas. You also learn about best practices on gender equality, helps you set concrete goals and targets and measure progress over time. Right? What we don't measure doesn't get managed. You can also benchmark against peers and industry standards. That's one of the biggest things that the GAT helps you do. Great. Great to see so many people sharing in the chat. Great. Also contributing to sustainable development goals. So our key tool, there's lots of tools for assessment, but our key tool that spans all of those WEPs principles is called the Gender Gap Analysis Tool, or the GAT. So I'll probably call it the GAT at several places. Interloop, great. I'll probably call it the GAT today. So the GAT is a global framework grounded in the WEPs and designed for business. It was actually developed in consultation with more than 300 businesses. When the GAT was developed in 2010, it was also looking at GRI standards, at existing sustainability frameworks for gender, at EDGE, which focuses a lot on the workplace. It looked across the global benchmarks and standards for measuring gender equality and used that in addition to the live consultations with companies to build this framework. So another great thing, it's free, it's user-friendly, and it's confidential. So it's not fully anonymous, but it's confidential in that your data is confidential. On the back end, I have the ability to look at the aggregate data. So I can see that one company, from the country Pakistan, this size, took the GAT in 2025. But I can't tell your name. There's no other identifying information on you. So other than, size, sector, so it is all confidential. It gives you really clear and concise results. What it also does, if you look on the top right side, so it looks at kind of 4 main pillars of the WEPs: leadership, workplace, marketplace, and community. And then what it does, which is really great, across those 4 pillars, it also measures for each of those, what stage are you at in terms of commitment to implementation, to measurement, to transparency, right? So commitment is just having the policy in place or the written standards or procedures. Implementation, what you're actually doing. Measurement, are you tracking it? And then transparency, are you reporting it? So it covers all topics like the strategy, equal pay, recruitment, supporting parents and employees with caregiving needs, women's health and safety, sourcing or supplier diversity, and it could also be advocacy in general in communities. So I'm going to show you how the tool works, and then I'll actually take you to the website. But you can also see an FAQ on the methodology if you want to know in more detail. All of that is available on the GAT website. And again, so you don't need to be a WEP signatory. You can sign in for free. And actually, the GAT can be a useful tool for any organization. It was designed for private sector, but when you actually look at the questions, it's just as applicable to a nonprofit or any organization because it's looking still overall how you treat your workforce. So one thing about the GAT, it should be filled by the D&I or HR or sustainability team in consultation with leadership. You probably also need to consult with a few other teams. So one of the nice things is you can download the tool in Excel form and PDF form because you might need to pass it around with marketing, with product development, with procurement team as well. And then maybe if you have a CSR or community level team, you might need to do it as an effort all together. Okay, so taking the tool, when you get started, you create a free account. Again, your account information is not associated with the aggregate data that we get in the back end. We can just see Pakistan 2025, this size, and this sector. So all your data stays confidential. And when you create a profile, you get a dashboard. So you can also see how many times you've taken the tool, and you can refer back to other times that you've taken the GAT, which is really nice. I'll take you to the website later, but that first step is creating an account. Okay, for each question in the tool, it gives you several different answer options. So no numeric data goes into the GAT. It is all just yes, no, okay? Part of this means you need to read the questions carefully because sometimes it's easy to misinterpret the questions. But for each question, they always ask, there's first a yes or no or not applicable. If you click no, you just get options to say, you know, we're interested, or we have a plan, or some of our offices have done things, or none of the above. If you click yes, then you get the other options. And for each question, you have 4 types of sub question. One is on commitment. So again, here, it's usually policy, right? Has a code of conduct. That's showing the commitment. In implementation, these are all the actual activities you're doing. So this question in particular is on supplier diversity and asking, do you encourage suppliers and vendors to advance performance on gender equality? So again, this is something that, you know, you can answer as a corporate or as a nonprofit. We all have vendors, right? So implementation would be different activities like encouraging suppliers and vendors to have a gender equality strategy or policy that addresses certain things. It might be has robust due diligence or assessment procedures for suppliers and vendors to ensure they're not contributing to human rights impact or discrimination on women and girls. So all the things that you're doing, you just tick the box. Measurement encourages suppliers to set and measure targets. And transparency, this would be including gender equality criteria in auditing protocols, or if you have a supplier scorecard or supply chain management tool. This might be more for larger organizations, but it depends what fits with you. So there's 18 different questions, and each of these questions is just like this. It's all ticking the box, whether you have it or don't have it, not any numeric data that actually comes in. Okay, at this point, I'm actually just going to take you to the website and show you how it works. I'll do a quick walkthrough of the 18 questions. I can always go back if any of you want. I don't want to bore you and go through every single question, but if there's any you want me to go back to at any point, we can. So when you go to the main website, let me put this in the chat as well. The first thing that you would do is log in. There are also some an overview of the tool. There are also some other resources you can check. Not all of them are up to date, but most of them are. So you can, if you're new, you can sign up for an account, kind of like we showed. Or I already have an account, so I'm going to log in. And I have taken the tool as kind of a mock test a few times. So you can see all these times I took it. So what the WEPs tool also does, I'll show you what the results looks like, but it actually gives you an automatic heat map of where you stand, and it gives you a score. So a total score of 100 would be you've ticked all those yes boxes, right? And then based on that, it will give you a total overall score, and it shows you, let me just show you quickly. So there's 4 stages of score. One is beginner, improver, achiever, and leader. Just because you're a leader doesn't mean you're absolutely perfect, right? And we do understand that more SMEs may find it difficult to be a leader than an improver or achiever because they don't often have the resources, the financial or the human resources to undertake a lot of efforts. Whereas, especially if you're a very large company or a very large supply chain, or a multinational, you may have very strict, policies in place. So this is just a benchmark assessment and to help you identify potential gaps and opportunities, right? This does not mean that your company is inherently better or worse on gender equality. But you have these 4 levels. And then the really nice thing, right? The red and orange is kind of areas to focus. The yellow and green is, do a bit more work. And the blue is more where you're really strong. So this is an example, right? I just put in mock results. And for these 18 questions, you see how it's divided: leadership, workplace, marketplace, community. The most of the questions are in workplace. So you can see with violence, harassment, and sexual exploitation, I'm doing really well. Overscore is 73%. This means I ticked most of those boxes. For each question then, I also see where I'm doing in the 4 stages. So I have really good commitment. I have a really strong policy in place. Implementation, I'm doing several different activities. Measurement, I'm tracking the data of incidents, but then transparency, I'm not actually reporting any of the incidents, either to my internal shareholders or externally. So that's the area where I could improve the most. Where we see, okay, paternity leave, for example. I know this is an area, right, where not many national legislation mandates paternity leave or certain amounts, but here I can see that I have I have somewhat of a commitment, so maybe there's one mention on paternity leave in a broader policy. Implementation, am I trying to encourage men to take paternity leave? Am I sharing about the benefits of both parents taking an active role? No. Am I measuring how many men take paternity leave? Maybe I'm measuring, but am I measuring how many come back after paternity? No. And am I reporting? No. So that's definitely an area where I can do better. The great things is it does this for each of these different questions, so you can see. And if I also go back, I can download the results in PDF, so I can see the answer for every single question. which is nice. Let me just show you how the live platform works. Continue the tool. Let me start with okay, let me go back. I had started one. And that's also the nice thing. You can start online and save it. So question 1 is leadership and strategy. Does your company have leadership commitment and support? So if you click no, then you get these different options, right? If I click yes, then first it's going to ask me on commitment. Have I put out an internal communication? Yes. Have I signed the Women's Empowerment Principles or released a public statement? Yes. Right? So then implementation has an organization-wide gender equality strategy that identifies specific priority areas. This is where it's really important to pay attention to the questions, because maybe you have one statement on gender equality in a broader policy. That's not what this question is looking for, right? It's looking for an organization-wide strategy that identifies specific areas, not just our strategy is to promote gender equality, right? We seek to enhance women's leadership, improve our supplier diversity, and create an organization, with non-discrimination, equal recruitment, and equal pay. We've identified those as our priority areas. Has an organization-wide strategy that includes a business case or a rationale for why your business is investing in gender equality. Some of these questions can be a little bit tricky, like this one, a strategy that articulates the link between gender equality and other areas of corporate sustainability and gender performance. This is basically, do you see gender as linked with your core business priorities, or is this just kind of a tick the box HR exercise, right? Some of these questions I know can be confusing. So if you have any questions, you can always come back to us. The strategy was developed in consultation with employees, right? This isn't just maybe the 3, or 4 HR people talk to each other. This is actually that when you were building your strategy, or maybe you were redoing your strategy, you sent out surveys or you had some focus group discussions, so that they actually co-created it. So it's important to read all those small details. Measurement, this question is often the same across all the questions. Do you have time-bound, measurable goals and targets in the strategy, right? If the strategy just says we will improve women's leadership for the next several years, not quite, right? It needs to say we aim to, increase from 20 to 25% women in senior leadership by 2030, right? Time-bound specific goal includes formal accountability mechanisms for progress and outcomes. Is this a KPI for you as the head of sustainability or HR or other, ways to make sure you're accountable for this? And then transparency. Often this is reports publicly, so external and internal, and then reports to the board on progress made and outcomes of strategies and commitments. So publicly could be in your annual report or a sustainability report, or this could be reporting on WEPs.org or maybe another platform where you're reporting. But that one would be more external, and then the board more internal. So then it goes to workplace. We have 11 questions on workplace. So same thing, right? Commitment, implementation, measurement, and transparency. And the important thing as well is to really read the questions carefully, right? So this one, for example, is on non-discrimination and equal opportunity. So the GAT differentiates, right? Our company provides training on non-discrimination and equal opportunity. Or also our company provides unconscious bias training. Maybe you have a training that combines both, so you look at it, but they're separate things, right? or the non-discrimination policy is supported by confidential grievance and resolution mechanisms. So if you have a non-discrimination or a whistleblower policy, but they have to disclose their identity in order to report, that actually wouldn't be, or it still could be confidential, just not anonymous, right? So just make sure you read through everything. Let me jump a little bit to the marketplace. That's where some questions I know come in. Will it let me jump? I might have to jump one at a time. Okay, I'll just do a quick overview then of each question. I just clicked no. Wait. Okay, I'll just put in some answers so we can keep going. An approach to assure non-discrimination and equal opportunity in professional development and promotion. So this one's asking, as you approach mentoring, building leadership pipelines, developing new talent, do you have a gender or non-discrimination and equal opportunity approach in there? This is also one offers mentoring programs with specific support for women. If you have a mentoring program in the company and it can be anyone, you wouldn't tick this box. This is only if you recognize and you have specific support that you want to make sure reaches women talent, young women talent, or women returnee talent, specifically targeting women, right? Because this tool is specifically measuring gender equality, right? It's great to have an overall mentoring approach, but if there's not that specific target for women, then don't click that one here. Okay, that one is all about specific for women, right? As is the question, I think, as we go later on health and safety. This one is compensation and the pay gap, right? Has procedures to remediate pay inequalities, assess other financial benefits and contributions when reviewing compensation. We know, and actually a lot in Southeast Asia, not only this region, but many women retire with lower pension, or they don't see the same types of bonuses, especially if they've had multiple children, and that has impacted their progression within the company. And so we see a lot of this actually causing pay inequities when it shouldn't be. Measurement would be undertaking an objective audit or evaluation, internal or external, at least every 5 years. Okay, next question, support and paid maternity leave, pretty standard. Let me go, okay, I'll just tick no, so it's at least in there. Same thing for paternity leave, right? And similar here, implementation would be informing employees of changes, provides incentives to encourage men to take paternity leave. Maybe you actually offer an additional support for returning to work if men take paternity leave, or you guarantee no losses when it comes to potential bonus or hour they might be accruing towards a promotion, mentorship and succession planning, all these different things that you could be doing. Supporting employees and parents as caregivers. We know this is an increasingly important element also to young talent who look at entering the workforce, but especially many women, right, who find themselves not able to return to the workforce full time or even dropping out preemptively when they do have children and they're not able to get the right types of support in the workplace. So this looks at different policies that you may have in place, how you communicate them. Implementation could be everything from mentorship support or training for those returning from parental leave, an option for phased return to work, referrals maybe for off-site childcare facilities. Maybe you are actually vetting available care providers. Paid time off for breastfeeding or pumping. Some of you may have an on-site childcare facility. I know many examples in Pakistan doing that. You may offer paid time off to attend healthcare appointments with dependents. You may also consult with employees to determine if the benefits meet their needs. And again, tracking is measurement, transparency, reporting externally. This is also a question on work-life balance that relates more to things like flex time, telecommuting, compressed work weeks, job sharing or part-time work still with benefits. I know at least a few companies in Malaysia are experimenting with fractioned work, depending on their industry, right? Where people can do 3/4 time with them and then 1/4 with another company, that's very flexible. Wait, let me click at least one button. Okay. An environment free of violence, harassment, and exploitation. So again, I think similar questions that you might expect, but that one is touching a lot on sexual harassment in particular. This one looks at health, safety, and hygiene, and the key statement here is specific to women. Have you looked at the safety provided in your building, not just overall OSH, right, occupational safety and health, but specifically the needs for women? Or maybe this is something like considering transport to and from the location that women are working, right? If they're a bit more susceptible to potentially danger in those scenarios. The last one in the workplace pillar is access to quality health services. So again, questions specific to women on supporting health. So I'll just click no, so we keep going. The form marketplace question. So this one is proactive steps, procurement steps to expand relationships with women-owned businesses in the value chain. So one of the primary ways that the WEPs encourages promoting gender equality through business is gender responsive procurement. So buying more services, having more women-owned businesses as vendors and suppliers. So again, gives you a number of things you could do for implementation. Are there any databases you use locally to identify women-owned businesses in purchasing processes? Do you have targets or goals for the amount you spend with women-owned businesses? Lots of different things. And sometimes also a lot of companies come back to us after they've taken the GAT and they say that it actually supported them, of course, with an internal assessment, but also gave them ideas of what they could be doing. And we do have next steps that I'll go over more next week, an action plan, but sometimes it can be really eye-opening just to take the tool. We hear that from a lot of companies, actually. The second question is encouraging suppliers and vendors to advance performance. This is the first question that we looked at. I'll just say not applicable. Do you have an approach to responsible marketing that considers the portrayal of gender stereotypes? So this is really looking at what you're putting out in the public domain, whether it's job ads or it's your public advertising and marketing for products. How is that portraying men, women, and gender equality? Or if it's a cleaning product, is it always women, doing the cleaning? Or are you ever trying to show men or young boys in the house helping? Are you doing something as well just to review and ensure that your marketing materials don't portray harmful stereotypes or even discrimination? That can actually be a big step many companies can take. And by developing advertising that fights or makes new portrayals of gender equality, they can play a really big role, right, in influencing the public. The power of brands to really shape what people see, or maybe this is, having more ads with women as engineers. If you're an engineering or construction company, that representation goes a really long way. Do you have an approach to assess the differential impacts on men and women when developing products and services, right? And maybe you develop products for women, so this is core to your design, but we see a lot of banks when developing financial products or others developing products for the markets, not either designing for women or not, discounting women as a consumer base. So there's a lot of different things like market research, targeting specific needs of women. Another interesting one, right? Considering gender differences in access to products and services and changes to distribution models. We've seen a lot of really interesting work around that as well. And maybe consulting stakeholders, right? To continue to improve the design of products and services. Okay, next question. Like I said, WEPs is really that full spectrum. everything you're doing with your business could potentially work towards or have a neutral or even a negative impact potentially on gender equality. So this is looking really more at community level work. This is looking at community consultations, especially if you're undertaking a community development project or communities you work in, and assessing potentially the social impact or the human rights implications of a different project. Also, if you're doing focus group discussions before you start something in a community, are the facilitators of discussions actually trained in gender sensitive facilitation? Do you need to ensure you have different groups for men or women or older or younger to ensure that you're hearing from everyone? Do you have a transparent community grievance and resolution mechanism in place if something does happen and the community is impacted? Similarly to this, the final question, because Principle 7 is transparency and reporting, but that's already within every question. So we really just focus on leadership, workplace, marketplace, community. So the second question relates to gender in CSR and public advocacy in particular. So this could be maybe things you do also externally as a company, like financial or pro bono support for programmatic gender equality work, right? This could be for governments or for research. Or for any type of project that you're doing. Maybe it's even financial support to CSOs, joining public advocacy campaigns or public forums, right? We'll hold later this year our Asia Pacific WEPs forum. I'll be sending the save the date out soon. It will be in October. So joining a forum like this or speaking at a forum like this would also be helping to boost that external advocacy. You might be partnering with a local organization. We've seen some really powerful examples of companies using their worker base or also their databases to help with research and data, or also because they hold potentially such a wide market and consumer base to help look at what would be the best to advance certain areas. Multi-stakeholder platforms, and then again, consults with external stakeholders. So this survey, I think, because I answered no to so many, will be quite low. So I click confirm results. So I'm a beginner, 22%, right? So you see one question is green or more positive, and the rest are very red. And you know, when you do, so the results I downloaded earlier, I'll just show you a quick example. It gives you a really easy to view PDF. So if you do want to take this back to your leadership, right, you can see where you ticked the exact answers, and then you can always take them back on the platform to if you want to see a little bit more deeply where you fall. The tool, so this can be downloaded from the website. This is just a PDF of all the questions. This could be shared around for you to read through it before you take it if you want to get back with any questions. But once you do create an account, you can always download the Excel questions, right? So this might be the easiest way to complete it with peers, is you just download the Excel, start to populate it, put it on your internal shared drive, and then have people fill it out. And then, you know, you have all the information compiled. You can get on the dashboard and then input the information. One of the other things before I go back to the PowerPoint that I just want to show you that is great with the GAT also is if you do want to use it for global benchmarking or industry benchmarking. So it's going a little bit slow, but we have ability to look at the aggregate reporting in the back end. So what I can do is always look up Pakistan, right? I'm going to say, I'll just keep all for now. But if I filter the results, so in total, there are 102 GAT surveys for Pakistan. And I can share this with Fatima and Faria, and you can see if you'd like at any time, what are the sizes taking it? What's the annual revenue, the sector? You also see individual questions. It gives me a little bit more when I download in Excel, but least practice question is the one that most companies did not answer. Least practice just means answer. And we often see this. It's number 14. Do you encourage suppliers and vendors? That's an area where not many are taking action. So a lot just choose no or not applicable. The most practice is offer and support paid maternity leave. If you see where companies are the strong, so the average score is 44. So I think that's actually improver, which is quite good. And by the levels, by the themes. So if we look at the themes, so this is typically what we see as well across the globe. Companies are strongest in leadership and workplace, and then the weakest typically in marketplace, and then community is typically the third one. When we look at commitment, is the strongest, right? And then measurement is actually the next strong. It's interesting. The weakest is transparency, but also implementation, showing that companies could be doing more action. And so the nice thing about this is I can always help pull the data for you if you want to see. We want to know how Pakistan compares to Vietnam or Malaysia, for example. Or if you want to say, you know, I really want to look at others in Pakistan that are my size that if, or, you know, I want to look at Asia Pacific countries of my size that have taken the survey to see how they compare. I can always pull this for you if you need. Okay, I'm seeing the questions come in the chat, which is great. So one is, are there specific industry benchmarks? There's not a specific industry benchmark right now, unfortunately. Yeah, I think for that, I would need to help research where they might have industry benchmarks. But what I could do at least is if you wanted to download for an industry, it's quite a long kind of taxonomy, but at least for this standard, what we could do is say, how do you compare to the other sectors, right, that are in beverages or in construction? And then I could also say, okay, you know, we want to see how many in Asia Pacific, where do you stand? Or globally, that I can help you do. But happy if you have a specific industry and want to reach out to me or the Pakistan team to see if we can find some benchmarking data for you. Okay, someone asks as well, Sakina, just need to clarify that the GAT will basically support an organization to do its own analysis. Yes, you just need to make sure that you've put in the data. It helps you do the analysis. And then what I'll help you do a little bit more next week is see how you can take that and then put it into an action plan. So it helps give you those automatic results. Yes, certification or recognition. There is no certification for having taken the GAT. I can consult with our HQ colleagues if there's a possibility to put a note on the website under the companies. But WEPs itself is not a certification, and the GAT, so we do have a certificate for joining the WEPs, but being a WEP signatory doesn't mean you're certified. And so we don't typically give out a certificate for taking the assessment. I could ask HQ because we do have the opportunity for companies to upload sustainability reports. I don't see an example here. But we will also shortly be adding little badge symbols to the website. So I could ask about that. Another great question though, how is this different from Gender Seal provided by another organization like UNDP? I'm not 100% familiar with the Gender Seal, but I think the Gender Seal is an actual certification. So joining the WEPs or taking the GAT is all self-reported and voluntary. I think to get a Gender Seal, you actually need to undergo a verification process. So some of you may be familiar with EDGE. It's another very advanced gender equality certification. They will actually go very much in depth. They'll audit the organization. That's a certification or a seal of approval. So the WEPs is not. It's really, this is helping you on your journey to kind of verify and take those next steps. Because we're not actually verifying or auditing any of the information. Okay, let me show I think we've shown this on the website. Any other questions on the website or the GAT? How to take it, how to complete it? I'll stop sharing screen for just a second. So feel free to type in the Q&A, I think, or raise your hand or type in the chat. Okay, great question. How often should one use the tool? We advocate to take it every 1 to 2 years. I think really it depends how active your organization is in gender equality. If you're really doing a lot and you're seeking to improve and you have the resources that you're doing a lot in each calendar year, you could take it every year. If not, I think taking it every 2 years or 1.5 years could also help give you an idea of how you're improving over time. Additionally, once an organization does the GAT in a year or two, yes. So basically, you don't go in and change the GAT, but you go, I'll just share again, but yes, you can go in and just take a new survey. So I see my dashboard, and these are when I've taken the surveys, right? So once I've finished it, it may allow you to edit, but I won't go back, right? So I can take it and then always see the results. So I can see where I'm standing over time. And go back to take the data. Yes, and it doesn't, I have to double check if there's a feature to give you like that exact comparison, but you would probably, it'd be fairly easy, right, to even put this against 2 slides. Yeah, or I can always help you download the Excel data so you can, do a very easy formula to say which areas have we improved in by which percentage. Can always help you do that. Okay. Great. Okay. I know we're at almost an hour. I can answer any other questions. There is an exercise that potentially goes with this. I'm not going to force everyone to stay and do it, but what I can do after the webinar, I'll share these slides with Safira and the team. And I'll share the worksheet and then a sample GAT result so that if you want to just look at it and familiarize yourself, you can do that. What we will be doing next week, okay, is actually using the GAT results, right? How do you actually use this? So the GAT, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say don't do it without CEO clearance, but it's simply an internal self-assessment. You may want to just get clearance so the CEO knows you're doing this, because you may even need to because you'll likely need to refer to different departments to actually complete the test. But you would be the one that creates the account and signs onto the platform to enter all the data on behalf of the organization. Yeah, so you would take the analysis, yeah, just with clearance. I hope that answers, but keep any questions coming. So what we'll do a little bit more next week is start to look to how do you actually build an action plan, right? You will have your results, so what, right? So we'll go through a bit of a phased approach of prioritizing where the issues lie. You can't focus on all 18, right? We know no one is capable of doing all 7 WEPs perfectly at the same time. You may choose the ones that are the most red. You may choose the ones that you had already identified as a priority for your organization. So prioritizing the issues, where you want to stand, thinking about measures, targets, and goals. How do we want to solve this, right? Is this one activity? Is this a 5-year phased approach and we do it in different steps? We bring in different departments. Is there training first and then there's implementation and then there's a data tracker? Defining what you're actually going to do And then also looking at how you'll implement. Who else in the department do I need to run this with me? What senior leaders or what departments? How often are we going to meet to review this? How are we going to engage other employees? Maybe we need to do a survey first before we figure out exactly what we're going to do. And then moving from there. Sorry, this is kind of, I already said this, yeah. So understanding the context, right? I think this is an important one. A lot of people mention bias, and this is something we hear time and again come up, right? And it's the same if we're talking about companies in the US or Europe or Pakistan or, Malaysia, is we see so much bias. So what are the drivers of this issue ultimately, right? What's hindering us from achieving the goal or getting over this issue? Also look to how this could potentially be a risk or an opportunity, right? Especially if you're presenting this to management. We do a lot in our work with companies of how do you get buy-in from your CEO. Often we work with really committed sustainability professionals or HR professionals who say, I have this idea and I can't get it past management or I can't get it past the board. So also try and frame within the risk and opportunity of the business. How could this bring in more talent, retain workers, build your brand either domestically or internationally? Could this open up opportunities for us to supply to other multinationals, in trade across the globe? Also, how could this potentially be a risk if it's not addressed, to build some of that business case? Look at your internal capabilities. What are you actually able to do within your team and organization? Determine your ability to influence the issue and then engage different stakeholders. So this, I think, as most of you probably know, you have other KPIs and you have other kind of clear measures and targets, looking at the time frame and the goals, right? Looking at how you're going to signal progress to stakeholders, that's a really important element, communication. What's a realistic timeline, right? Not too fast, not too short. What's a good goal, but not too ambitious? And how do we keep each other on track? Right? So we consider the context when making goals, the global ambitions of the company, if that's applicable, the impacts on the products or operations. Again, you may look at opportunities to use your scale and footprint. And then I think most of you probably know the SMART goals, and we'll talk about those a little bit more next week. And then implement within the business is key, right? Getting that buy-in, having a dedicated team to work on this. Ideally, that's not all women. That sounds a bit simplistic, but we do often see, right, when we have men engaged in these activities, and understanding that this benefits everyone, not just women, right, it goes a lot farther in the organization. Communication internally, externally about what you're doing, and then monitoring and evaluation. Okay, so we won't do the activity today, but I'll share it with you by email if you do want to do it. Where we will go next week is how this fits into your WEPs journey and how we can support you to take the next steps. So taking the gender gap analysis tool is the first step. You will not have to, yes, oh yes, Sakina, yeah, I'll share everything with you. You won't have to share your results with us, but we ask that everyone before the webinar next week takes the gender gap analysis tool. I know it might be a little bit tight, but try if you can, because I want everybody to actually bring their results so that you can use it in what we're going to do. Again, you don't have to disclose it with us, but just make sure you have a copy. So I would actually say step 3 first a bit. What we developed in 2022 is a monitoring and evaluation framework for the WEPs, and this was aligned with all the metrics of the gender gap analysis tool. We did another review of GRI, of EDGE, of other existing benchmarks, and I'll already share that document with you in the email, the framework, if you want to look through it. And that presents a set of kind of key indicators you can report on to track progress, complementary indicators, and then other activities and measures you can do. what we do with that framework is then we do have a WEPs action planning tool where then you can input a lot of your GAT data, but then you can also input specific percentages. So that is an Excel-based tool. It's not programmed online, but we can make it available for all of you where you actually put in, okay, we have 30% women in senior management. We have 40% in the organization, and you can actually put in metrics and then choose which areas you want to address. And then that will be populated in a tool so that you start to action plan, have those KPIs set, and then can start tracking over time. So if you have any questions, as I know it's a bit of homework to get the GAT done for next week, but it will be a lot more helpful if you have the results with you. And we'll do a little bit of sharing first on what some of your impressions were from that. So if you have any questions at all, I'll send the materials out today. I'll send them right after the webinar, so you have them today. And if you have any questions while you start taking the tool, you can always email me or our UN Women team, and we can help answer any questions. Great. I think, Sophia, if there's no other questions, I can hand back to you.
Sure. Thanks so much, Amy. This was quite detailed and I think it was really beneficial. I saw some questions were also coming in. So thank you for taking out the time. Before we wrap up, can everybody just open their cameras? I'm requesting all the attendees as well. So we can take a quick group photo. It just helps for, social media and sharing it across. So I would like to request everybody to please do that. Thanks.
I have one more request, actually. I forgot. After the
Go
picture.
ahead, Amy.
Okay, actually, I'm going to put in a link to a Menti. I have just 2 more questions. If everyone could just answer briefly, has the session increased your awareness of how to use the GAT? And then the final question is just if you already have any specific areas of the WEPs you want to work on. It's not a complete list, but it just asks you if there's a few other areas you do want to specifically focus on and any other feedback you might have. So yeah, just 3 final questions from everyone. Thanks if everyone could answer, and then we can take our group photo. Great. Sophia, did you get the photo or not yet?
Yeah, I'm just getting it right now.
Great.
Do you want to come with me? So my colleague who's also listening also wanted to be a part.
Oh, great.
Just a second. Sorry about that. Done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right.
Great.
Thank you for your time, everyone. See you all next week, and hopefully everybody will be able to make it, and we will have another great session with Amy. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you, Amy.
Bye.
It was a very useful session and hope to be seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Take care.